A little background story. I'm actually a former Secret Service.
Okay, I apologize. Strike that last comment from me.
um, but I was actually on President Trump's 2016 presidential campaign protection detail, and so she told me to call in and give my insight.
Please, please, please.
So just, I mean, real quick, like if you just want me to give you a, just kind of like an overview of everything, you know, when watching the assassination attempt, it was pretty shocking what happened. But, you know, as Secret Service agents are taught that when something like that happens, that they need to cover, conceal, and protect their protectee. And the Secret Service did that. The detail that's around him jumped on him and concealed him from the assassin. The problem that I saw on there was that whenever there's an attack, that's considered the X. And you need to move off of that X as soon as possible because your attacker has designated that X as the best place to conduct their attack. So therefore, if you move off that X, you're changing the variables of the fight to try to gain your advantage. And in my opinion, the detail did not move fast enough. So it's a little bit of a gig on them. In addition to that, you also have other elements of security. So President Trump is a former president. He's a front runner for the Republican Party. So therefore, he doesn't have a full-blown protection detail as what President Biden has currently. So his resources are limited. So when it comes to a big site like that, where he's doing a speech, you're only limited to whatever manpower you have at the time. And it might be there's other visits. There might be overseas visits where the manpower has got to be shifted. So I don't know what was given to that particular site. Based off what I saw, it looked like there was 2 counter assault team members, which we refer to as CAT. And then you also had a counter sniper team. And I don't know how many counter sniper teams that were out there. There might have been 1. Maybe that's why they were so close to the protectee, because they had such a wide area to cover. Not saying that that's the best course of action, but that might have been what was only provided to them at the time. And that was the best plan that they could put in place. But when all of that happened, it seemed like there was a breakdown in communication. You had, if counter sniper had identified a target of a man on the roof, there should have been a communication that went down to the protection detail, letting them know that there's a possible issue.
And then pull them right off the stage right away.
And pull them right off the stage and be like, Mr. President, we have a situation. We got to have you stop.
Or at least have someone jump up there, right? At least have someone jump up there.
Yes. Yes. And in addition to that, you would have also the CAT teams start staging and getting closer in case something happens. Because if you're on that X and that shooter, you know, who's out on the roof, you don't know if there's another person out in that crowd that's going to add to that fight. So you need to bring in that counter assault. And it seemed like the counter assault team moved in slower. And I know that they carry flashbangs. I know they carry smoke. And in my opinion, they should have deployed smoke, because once you put that smoke, it conceals the target. And then they can then move, and then your attackers don't know exactly where their target is. But overall, like, President Trump was very lucky. And the Secret Service is also very lucky that they don't have a dead protectee on their hands. If I had to rate the Secret Service's, what I saw, I don't know the details. Everything could change. I'd rate him at a C or a D on as far as performance.
Wow. What about the guy on the roof? Let's say he saw the guy, going back to one of the things we were talking about earlier. Let's say he saw the guy. Did he have the authority to just shoot him? Just be like, hey, that doesn't look right, and just kill him?
So I'm going to make the assumption that there is one counter sniper team out there. And if they're looking at a wide variety, they're scanning a wide range to look for a target. If that guy popped up and if he was climbing up a roof, he's somewhat concealed. So when he popped his head out to make the shot, the time has started. So one, you're hoping that when he pops up, that counter sniper teams can identify him quickly. Then once the counter sniper team identifies them, they have to go through a checklist, because as a law enforcement agency, they're accountable for every single round that's fired. So if they shot and they had a mistake, whether it was
like a kid with a camera
officer,
fellow officer, a kid with a camera would be my two guesses. Hey, it's some kid with a long lens and a camera.
Exactly. So they've got to see it, and they're like, as soon as they see it, they're calling up and be like, hey, we have a unidentified person on building number whatever. Is that one of our guys? We're seeing him. He's wearing this. We're looking for a weapon. What's his actions? They're looking for confirmation, because they do not want to take a shot and be wrong, because they're going to be held liable for that shot. Where the attacker can fire 20, 5, 10, 20, however rounds he wants. He's like, there's no accountability for him if he hits 50 different people, where the law enforcement officer, he shoots, misses, and hits someone else behind that. He's accountable for that round that missed. So they were probably going through a checklist of, do we have a shot? Do we have authorization? And then once they probably saw shots, and then, once again, I am assuming here, and this is all speculation, but once they probably saw the shots, they said, that's a green light, go. And that's when the shot went out.
Let me ask you this, and I'm going to make a huge presupposition here. Why were there 3 women on his security detail? Why would you have a woman in a job that a man is better suited to do?
That's just the way the Secret Service works.
You don't want to say, fuck you, Sevon, that's sexist? That's not true?
I mean, I don't want to say that at all. And like, I would actually agree with you. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story here in a second. But let me first address your question.
Please.
As far as having the detail, like, the Secret Service for the last several years has been hemorrhaging manpower. They can't keep agents on because they're constantly traveling on protection. They're all over the place. People are constantly leaving for a better quality of life.
They don't want to guard Hunter. They're tired of guarding Hunter Biden.
Every president assigns who gets protection, and typically with Biden, when he was vice president, he gave protection to all of his family members, grandkids, and everything like that. So the mission changes every administration as far as a footprint. But then we keep on adding protectees. So I know a previous caller was talking about defunding the DOJ. Secret Service isn't funded by the DOJ. The Secret Service is actually funded by Department of Homeland Security. That's who they fall under. And they moved over from the Treasury Department after 9/11 under DHS. But as far as like going back to the women, there are capable women that can do the job, that are physically fit. But I also know that the standards aren't being upheld the way they should. And I'll get the story I mentioned was when I was on President Trump's detail after he won the election. And I had been with him for about a year at that point. And, I'm physically fit. I'm a former military, try to stay in shape and whatnot.
Of course you're fit. You listen to the Sevon podcast. Of course you're fit.
Of course. So, but we look the part. And when I go out there, like, I mean, I don't know if this is your personal number. I can actually send you photos of me on the detail and everything. I look pissed. I look like I'm going to fuck you up if you try to step over that line. Like, test me. Like, that's the look that you want to present.
Right.
And after he won, and then the presidential detail took over protection for him as the new elected president, the campaign detail was kind of being pushed aside. And I remember seeing a presidential protection detail agent that was assigned to him, and Trump looks at her, looks at the other guy who's we call it PPD agent, and he's a little overweight, and he looks around and he goes, "Why are all these fat people around me?" He's like, "You want people that look big," and slaps my shoulder and goes, he's like, "I want people to know that if they mess with me, they're getting it."
Yeah.
And like even then, Trump was kind of noticing what was around him. Not saying that, everyone, is a stellar of health or everything like that, or if they're a little out of shape, they can't do the job. But when the time comes that you got to act quick, those little factors matter. Like, if you can't run up the stairs fast enough, then that's a factor you need to address. If you can't, carry your protectee down a flight of stairs or whatever, then that's a factor you need to address, because in the key moments, milliseconds matter. And that's what you train for. You don't train just, look good or anything. So when the fight comes to you, that you've put that training in to be ready for that moment.
So you're saying you can't just go in there and be like, I need, we have President Trump. I need 12 men who are 6'2" who can run a 6-minute mile. Like, they don't have, and you just pick them. Like, that's how I picture the Secret Service to be. You got like 100 dudes to pick from, and you just pick the dudes to work.
It used to be like that when they had a lot of manpower, but since then they've been losing manpower, and it's kind of, you get what you get, where you can go.
They had a fat girl out there, dude, who couldn't holster her gun. Who couldn't holster her gun.
Yeah.
Was her belly in the way?
I was watching it and going, "Oh, yeah, this is all standard." It just, it's sad. Like, I remember seeing agents that were extremely overweight, and there was nothing that would, the management would do to address that and say, "Hey, you're overweight. You kind of got to look the part." But I will say that that's kind of a new development that's been happening over the years, because when George W. Bush was in office and manpower was a lot larger than what it is, I didn't know this when President Bush was in office, but he was a fast runner. He could run like the wind. So if you were going to be on his detail, you had to be able to run and keep up with him. Because if you could not keep up with him, he would tell the Secret Service, "Don't bring that person on my detail." But I don't know if that's changed because of the manpower issues that have happened or what. But it used to be like that.
I really appreciate you calling in. Let me ask you another question. How many people, including Secret Service, sheriff, police, highway patrol, how many do you think were there total? Just like rough. I know we can't know for sure. You think 50?
So it depends. So every site, there's an assessment of threat, assessment of attendance, and assessment of available manpower. I don't know how big the site is. So if the site was really large, that security footprint could be larger. If the attendance was lower, it would be significantly less. I can't make that assumption. If I had to make an average based off my experience of it on the campaign, I would say there was probably anywhere between 20 to 30 Secret Service agents, and then uniformed officers were probably around 10. I'm sorry, Secret Service uniformed officers. There was probably 10. And then you had the specialized units that was probably another 10. And then local law enforcement. And that's solely dependent on what they can provide.
As he's driving, as he's driving away in the car, there's at least 2 or 3 guys in the car with him, and at least 10 guys in suits around him, at least just right there. But what's crazy is the people around his car when he leaves, it's 3 women who look completely fucking lost and out of shape. But on top of that, how did one person not take the initiative? And I guess it's just a par for the course now, but and be like, hey, someone should go stand on that roof. Like let's say I was out filming the CrossFit Games, there'd be at least one photographer who'd be like, "Hey, I'm sneaking up on that roof to get a photo." How did not one? And I also want to acknowledge this. I keep hearing in the media over and over that the Secret Service also, it's totally different going to a Trump rally than any other rallies because they're 10x what like a Biden rally is. That they're not used to so many people showing up. So I get that too, but it's fucking nuts that no one said, "Hey, I'm just gonna go climb up on that roof." Or, hey, let's get 2 guys up there. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. It's a direct shot to the fucking stage.
So I'm going to speculate here.
Yeah.
The perimeter is the Secret Service's responsibility. So all the Secret Service agents probably were within that perimeter. I would absolutely agree. It is a downfall of the security plan with that. If anything, they should have had at least local PD out in that parking lot, be like, hey, we need you to make sure that you're out here. These buildings will give oversight of our protectee. We need to make sure that like there's nobody up here popping, up on the roof trying to do stuff. There should have been something in place. There might have been. Maybe they were handling something else and they didn't see the guy. I have no idea. I don't want to speculate too much.
Like, hey, there's 10 buildings in the area, right? Let's just put 1 cop on every building.
Exactly.
I mean, just hey, yeah, just even if there's no threat, just to make a statement, even, or just for extra eyeballs, anything.
It's definitely a lapse in the security plan, and I'm willing to bet probably from the Secret Service perspective, they say, hey, locals have got this. We've got this interior bubble. We have counter snipers that are going to be scanning the rooftops. That's probably their mindset on how they did it. But you're absolutely right. There should have been someone out there, especially, I was looking at the map and seeing it, and I was like, yeah, that would be a vulnerability in the security plan for sure.
Let me ask you this too. What about all the people who are this is kind of a tough one to ask, but could it be, do you think that there's any inside coordinated job? Like, like the conspiracy theorists are all over this one, right? Any coordinated job, like could you get all the Secret Service detail to be like, okay, let's just lapse our security so Trump can get shot?
I don't believe so.
Okay. I don't believe so either.
If any, this type of stuff is just like sugar for the conspiracy theorists that they can just eat and get all excited about. In my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, this is not anything based off. I think over the last several years, we have not we, but like the media has just fed this hatred of Nazi. He's a Nazi, he's a rapist, he's a this. If we don't stop him, democracy dies, da 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 da. And regardless of what side you're on right now, people feel desperate. And when all they're being fed is desperation and things of that nature, they enable people who are emotionally desperate to take action. And I believe that to be more true than this was an inside job, deep state, assassination attempt.
Right.